is Derek Wright from Electrical and Computer Engineering. And I'm going to turn the mic over, so here he is.
Okay, who's an ECE? I'm really sorry you have to hear me talk more. This is to make up for all those optional classes where I say, just don't show up unless I tell you. So I wish, a lot of people would come up and say, oh, I had a startup and then I sold it for millions of dollars. And then I had another startup and I sold it for a few more $1 million and then I traveled the world. But I want to give you my bona fides of why am I qualified to tell you this? Through failure, over and over and over again. I ended up in the business world kind of by accident for about 6 or 7 years before I, by accident, came back to academia. And when I first entered in there, it was in a direct sales role. I had that feeling, like you watch TV and they say, oh, he's got a good gut for business. He's really good at negotiating. And like, it doesn't mean anything, right? And so I see this stuff not working and it was driving me crazy. And much like, when you're coding or you're working on a hardware project or something and something's not working, there's some bug in your system and it drives you crazy and you can't let it go. You go to bed and you close your eyes and you're still thinking about it. And you wake up and you're still thinking about it and then you're in the shower and you're like, I got it. I know exactly why. Same thing on the business side for me. So maybe somebody like a business student, this might be trivial for them, but for me this was unbelievably eye-opening to go through this, to fail personally, to see those around me fail, but then to come out the other end and see successes. So I'm trying to condense all this down into something that can be useful for you and practical, and it's targeted at your capstone design, at your 4th year design project. The idea here is problem-centric design, and how do you come up with that problem? Because I see a lot of 4th year design projects that are good from a technical perspective, but they're kind of lame. And it's hard. Like I went through this. I graduated in 2003, and I was on an FYDP team. I mean, Ken would have hated how I made my team. They were my roommates. One was software, I was hardware. The other guy just kind of hung out and had free beer all the time. So it just worked out great. But it was kind of a lame project. We did good, we did really well. I was the presenting guy, and yet here I am doing it again. So I want to help you avoid that. Here's the main problem, and you're going to see this everywhere. As soon as you're keyed into it, you see it everywhere. Solutions looking for problems. All over the place. A lot of tech startups fail. I think it's on the order of 40 to 50%. Certainly not all for this reason, but a lot of them are solutions looking for problems. So I'll give you some examples of, well, what do I mean by solutions looking for problems? Cuvée, that's a startup that failed. Wi-Fi connected wine bottles. Is anybody sitting at home going, oh my God, this wine bottle's so passive. It's full of wine, the wine's great, but oh, this bottle, come on. Like, no wonder it didn't, it's a solution looking for a problem. There's no problem, it's not solving a problem. Here's one that I love. You can insert videos into your Excel spreadsheet. Now, there's software reasons why you can just do that. There's frameworks that allow that. But good product design tells me you should just shut that off. Like, that shouldn't be a thing that my mom can call me and say, your brother sent me a spreadsheet with some money in it, and then there's this, like, I put a picture in it or something, but it's moving. Like, that's a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. There's a concept vehicle, this is a couple of years old now, that can send you a text message when your gas tank is running low. Isn't that so high-tech and cool? And so you run out of gas on the side, and your phone starts buzzing, and you're like, oh, what now? Oh, of course I'm out of gas. I'm on the side of the room. Like, how is this useful? You're at work, and then it buzzes. You're like, oh, my wife ran out of gas again. Thank goodness I got texted. Solution looking for problem. So here's my favorite, because it won't die. It never goes away. The internet-enabled fridge. So I get it. So the vision is, someday in the future, it just knows what food is in there and it orders and then like shows up at your door or something. I get it. That's the future. That's not what that's not what I'm talking about. Here's an article from 1999. I was alive in 99 and it didn't look this oldie-timey. It's just a poor quality image. It says here, meanwhile, a Japanese company has developed what it calls the internet refrigerator. This was the first one I could find, with a speedy Pentium 2 microprocessor and huge hard drive. And the gist of it is that there's this vision. You can control everything in your house from your internet-enabled fridge. So for example, you could like start your washing machine from your fridge. Is that a problem you have? Are you ever in the kitchen, you're like, I'm gonna get some milk, I want a cup of milk, but I've gotta start the washer. It's already loaded, the soap's in there. So if only I had like wired my house with Ethernet cable, then I could finally solve this problem that I have. And I knew it. I wanted to update my slides for today, and I knew it. I Googled Samsung refrigerator, and look at their landing page. Look at this stupid thing back there in the corner. And so I did a little bit of poking around, and all it is complaints about, well, it doesn't work with the Gmail calendar anymore, like, because they haven't updated their firmware, because it's an internet fridge. Who's like developing for the internet fridge? It's not, it just won't die. Don't make an internet fridge. So this whole talk is, how do you make your Capstone design project not be an internet-enabled fridge? And I mean that in quotation marks, internet-enabled fridge. That's what I'm trying to pass on to you in the quickest nugget I can. Here's your first Capstone group meeting. Here's how it typically goes. And I know because I've been in these meetings. I sit patiently. So I've been in the meeting as a student, but now as a faculty member, I sit patiently and I just quietly listen. I say, I'm a resource to you. I'm here to help. You can ask for my opinion, but I'm not going to give it to you. So somebody says, so first of all, you all look like stock photo models. I'd like to congratulate you on how attractive you all are. I'm good with databases. I'm good at hardware. Wearables are neato. I'm an entrepreneur. It's like, no, you're not. You're in electrical and computer engineering. What do you? And then this is the person who immediately disappears to make the company logo, and they come back with a box of t-shirts before anybody's decided what they're going to make. I'm into music. I'm a musician. So here's what they come up with, right? Here's what happens. They make a wearable music database with our cool logo on it. And it's going to have a mobile app too. Throw in a few more buzzwords, like it's going to have deep learning, AI, and there's going to be, like, it's going to be on Amazon Web Services. So I'm not a software guy, so I don't know what any of this means, but I hear it a lot. We're going to have a drop in the digital ocean. I thought somebody was joking, and I realized, oh, that's actually a thing now. Okay. This is not what you want. You don't want to just slap stuff together, because that's not solving a problem. And it'll work. It'll be neat. You'll get a fine mark on your Capstone design project, and you'll never look at it ever again. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do problem-centric thinking. So I'm going to clobber you with a definition here. This is a definition from some training I did a long time ago that has worked. It has worked unbelievably well. A product is a solution to a problem for a market segment, and a market segment is a group with a common problem. So this gives us a way to start thinking about things differently. We can start thinking about groups that have a common problem, and how can we solve that? And that's our product. That doesn't necessarily have to be a piece of hardware or software. It could be a service. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be a physical thing, but it's a solution to a problem for a market segment. And I mean that in the broadest way possible. So before any work takes place, you must answer the following question. And this is like your little lens here. And so many meetings I've been in, and this is, here's another tip. This is a bit of a tangent, but if you complain about stuff too much, then you end up being in charge of it. Because I ask that question a lot, and I don't get an answer, and then I'm in charge of it, so then I have to figure it out. What problem are you solving for who? Whether this is your first job when you're done, or your capstone, or you're going to sign a $10 million deal with a new partner, why? What problem are you solving for who? If you can't answer that, you better stop and take a breath before you do something else. So here are your ingredients for generating solutions, because it's, this is a process you work through with your peers. First, you think about market segments. Then you think about what problems do those market segments have. And you really think about these very independently. You just start listing market segments you think you might know something about or that are interesting. And then you have to figure out your team's distinctive competence. So the slide with the internet-enabled music thinger with the app and the logo, that is an agglomeration of distinctive competence, but it can be broader than what you're probably used to thinking about. And your solution is going to be the summation of those three. The market segment with their problems and your distinctive competence will lead you to a solution. It will lead you to a project that you can be proud of, that you know is actually going to have a meaningful impact. So here's what I do with students that elect to do it. So usually like 8 students elect to do this with me, but then I get the department to buy us pizza, so it's good. You brainstorm groups you know about, especially groups you don't normally associate with technology. And that's sort of the key. there's this whole like blue ocean, red ocean thing that I'm not going to get into. You want to go where nobody's been. That's easier, right? It's easier to come up with a solution in a new space. New spaces are where people, especially for what you're doing, technology, where technology isn't already there. So here's a list, a random list from the work I've done with students. Homeowners, that's kind of an obvious one. A lot of this just comes down to what you know, and my life is really boring and I have to deal with a lot of household stuff. So, Amish, and you're gonna laugh. Amish, they don't use technology. Yeah, they do. Some Amish use technology and they have to use it in a very particular way because of their lifestyle. Parents, urban slums, this one came up and there was a lot of good ideas about what can a city do with technology to solve problems in urban slums. Protesters, law enforcement, drivers, children. I know a lot about children. I have 3 of them. Special needs children, children not potty trained. I was trying to plant an idea in students' heads because I really wanted them to solve my problem. Children afraid of the dark. The elderly. This is ripe ground right here, and I'll tell you why, because we have some partnerships that are very meaningful here. Grandparents, nursing home patients, refugees. There's a lot of them right now. They have a lot of problems that we could help solve. Social workers, artists, campers. I like going camping. So you start off by listing problems for each of those market segments. Do not jump to possible solutions, and that's the hardest part, because you immediately say, oh, we could have, if there was like an app on their phone, like you don't want to get there. You just say, what are their problems, and you try to think of it in the broadest sense possible. And don't rule out any bad ideas. You might be surprised. So somebody said, what if prisoners was a market segment? And somebody said, what about like healthcare for prisoners? And everybody laughed. And then we thought about it more. And we're like, there's actually an opportunity there because the states could save a lot of money and it could help the prisoners. And so don't rule out bad ideas. This is not the time to rule out your bad ideas. So just as a few examples here, the elderly. Difficulty with mobility, loss of hearing, difficulty using internet or technology. Urban slums, poverty, rundown infrastructure, feeling unsafe. Maybe there's something with technology that can help people feel safe. I have a lot of homeowner ones. Weeds get into the walkways. That drives me crazy. Bills come during different cycles. You have accelerated biweekly is 26 bills in a year. And then you have bi-monthly is 24 or something like that. And they don't match up. So if you're trying to do your budgeting, it doesn't really work very well. So there's problems all over the place. You might not know about them. You have to go talk to people. That's the other thing students generally don't like is talking to other people. Like where you pick up like strangers, where you're like, hello, tell me about your problems. But this is great, and we can do this here. I've talked to Kids Ability. They want you to reach out to them. They have children with very unique problems. They have problems that need solving that you are now equipped to solve. The Schlegel UW Research Institute for Aging, that's the one at Barringer, like right near the YMCA at Barringer and Laurelwood. It's a UW center, right? We have a partnership there. Gerontology, elderly people have lots of stuff that they need solved. The Ontario Federation of Agriculture. Ontario has a huge agriculture segment, and a lot of our top projects have been in the agricultural sector. And these are probably not the first things you'd think of with technology, right? But they are ripe with problems that you can solve. Your distinctive competence. Here's the main thing I want to tell you about this. You're going to think about your resume or CV the minute you start doing this. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not what you're looking for. I'm not looking for any of it. You want to brainstorm elements of you and your team's distinctive competence. So what makes you guys distinct and unique? There's the obvious ones. I'm in hardware, I'm in software, I do embedded, I do mechatronics. I'm really good with GUIs, I'm really good with communications protocol. All the technical stuff, yes. There's things you like and you should talk about that. But I want you to think broader because this is where you're going to come to some unique solutions here. I'm really good at presentations. I'm really good at document writing. These are going to matter, right? I'm really good at performing a literature review. I actually like going on Google Scholar and digging up patents and all that and digging around, see what's there. I am really good at interpersonal skills. I don't mind picking up the phone and calling Kids Ability. That's a skill. That's a distinctive competence you need to know about. I am a concert pianist. So maybe there's something in that space that's unique that you can solve. I'm a fitness guru. Don't rule anything out. Like everything that you're passionate about, put it on the table. It might work, right? It might matter. Clearly, I'm not a fitness guru. I love MATLAB. I love MATLAB. Maybe you love like Python or something. I have many brothers and sisters. Do you think does anybody have many brothers and sisters? Like a lot? Do you think that you have a set of unique problems because of that? I don't mean personal problems, but Yeah, it's anything. Put it all on the table. You're going to have extra insight that people don't have. You live with a grandparent. That's a good one if you're going to think gerontology, right? Maybe you have a disability. My son is ADHD and attentive. I've learned all about that. And there's tons of problems that can be easily solved with technology. So then you put it all together. You're going to add them together. Don't limit yourself to one solution per problem. Don't rule out solutions at this stage. You want to shoot for quantity and not quality. So here's some examples. For homeowners, weeds get into the walkways. This is, again, I'm trying to have someone build this for me. Infrared laser plus a camera to target and zap. There may be safety concerns with this. Bills come during different cycles. Maybe you could use machine learning to develop a smart budget that like smooths it all out and just tells you what's going to, it just does it for you. Children not potty trained. Again, my kids are now potty trained, so don't bother with this one, okay? Potty is not exciting enough. Gamification of a potty, imagine that. The potty is scary, believe it or not, potties can be scary. Maybe the potty sings a pee-pee powered song. Maybe. It could be also for like your roommates if you have a bender or something and you want it to be a little cleaner. All right, sorry, I shouldn't have said that one. Edit that, Chris. What about the entrepreneurs? So you don't have to take your product to market, but I want to give you a couple hints if you do. Is your problem that you came up with urgent, important, and pervasive? You can pass your capstone and get great marks, even if it's not. But if you want to sell this, if you actually want to make money, the problem that you choose better be urgent, important, and pervasive. So let's try to come up with examples where one of those ingredients is missing. And let me tell you what this has meant to me personally. With one of these ingredients missing, I have had to fly all over planet Earth not selling stuff, right? Or not signing deals. And then I figure out after, oh, here's why. And it falls into one of these buckets. This is like, this works here. What if a problem is urgent and important but not pervasive? Anybody have any ideas of an urgent and important problem but it's not pervasive? Pervasive meaning lots of people have the problem. Did you have one?
Oh no, I was just going to talk about maybe the impacts of that.
Okay. Sure. So that you can actually make money on. Yep. It could be hard to connect with the person, yeah, so that's one of the problems that comes along with it. That's called a niche market, where there's not very many people. You can still make money in a niche market, and I'll give you an example. Nuclear missile guidance systems. Not a lot of people have that problem that needs to be solved, but it's certainly important, and they certainly have to do it now. Like, it has to work, right? So that's a niche market. You can make money, but I don't think for a fourth-year design project or capstone project, you're going to be able to have the contact network necessary to do that. What if it's important and pervasive but not urgent? Anybody have any ideas for that one? It's important, it's pervasive, but it's not urgent. I have a good one that I was thinking about because I was trying to think of a good example that would be meaningful to you guys. What about climate change? It's not perceived as urgent, so nobody's doing anything. Nobody's spending money on it. If you had a company and you said, you just put money in my front door and climate change slowly goes away, I don't think you would be able to sell that to governments because it doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't feel urgent, okay? What this means is you'll have an unbelievably long sales cycle for a regular product. You'll just be sitting there going, but it's better. And they're going, I know, but you know, it's like, I got a thing that kind of works, so I'm gonna keep doing that. What if it's urgent and pervasive but not important? I thought of a good one. A sock sorting folding machine. I have to fold my socks like several times a week. It's not very important to me though. It's urgent because I have to do it. I have to fold my socks. I have to wash them and put them away. It's pervasive. I'm sure you all own socks and that this happens to you as well. But I'm not going to spend money to solve that. I mean, the amount of time and money it would take me to research buying a thing and then figuring it out and then it sort of works, but I'm not happy with it. Just fold your socks and put them away, right? So there's an example of why in each of those cases, you're not going to sell. So if you think you're going to take your FYDP on, you need to think about that as well. Then the other thing is once you're in a market, so it's urgent, pervasive, and important, there might be other people there already. And so you have to compete with those people, and you can compete on price, quality or capability or configurability or service. And so I'll give you an example. I work out at this, I'm at a stage in my life where I can spend money on a good gym. It doesn't smell like socks. It's called Orange Theory Fitness, and it is not cheap. So they're not competing on price. I could just go to that like $4.99 a month gym and lift weights. I could go to no gym and just put on running shoes and go for a run, but I'm too lazy to do that. They're competing on service because they come in my face and yell at me that I'm not working as hard as I can because they know me. They know my name. They know what I'm capable of. And they can guilt shame me into working harder, right? So I'm paying for service. So that's an example. There's gyms everywhere. There's fitness everywhere. That's how they're competing. These slides will be available to you as well. So here's what I'm telling you to do. You want to solve a problem. Capstone is your time to flex your tech muscles. You want to show it off for future employers, and it feels good. It's kind of neat when you do something really cool. You could build a company. It's a great time. You probably don't have a mortgage. You probably don't have kids. You probably don't have a spouse. You could get in a car and just go to Las Vegas right now. You should get in a car and go to Las Vegas right now because you don't have any of these commitments. But you could build a company, it could fail, it could blow up in your face and it won't matter. You could solve real problems for real people, and this is what I'm advocating, is that instead of just doing something to check the boxes for FYDP or Capstone, you could actually help somebody. You could give back to the community. That's engineers, like a big part of what we do is that we connect with the community. We engineer for problems for people, right? We don't engineer in a vacuum. And you can meet new people. But I really think this is your chance to do something amazing. It's a blank slate. It's fairly low stakes in that you'd have to work pretty hard to fail your capstone design project, but it's an opportunity to take an idea. So here's how you get the idea, and here's your opportunity to take that idea, elevate it, and do something meaningful with it. So that's what I wanted to put into a little nugget and pass on to you guys. So how did I do on time? I still have about 5 minutes if anybody has any questions. So. Okay. Any questions at all? Any comments? Okay. All right, so here's what I challenge you to do. With your new lens, I introduced a fourth color that you didn't know existed. There was red, blue, green, and product management. Go to a startup website, like where they list startups and what they do, and look through your new lens and see how many of them you can predict today are going to fail and how many of them you get excited about. Because you're like, wow, that would have sounded boring earlier, but now I see that this is an urgent, important, pervasive problem. Maybe you want to call them and go work for them. So thank you very much for your time. ECs know how to find me, but anybody else, Derek.Wright at Waterloo, I'm happy to chat to whoever, even if you're not an EC student. Thank you.